Hi, so this is going to be the first video in a series of videos on the straight line for hire. So I thought first of all we could go through some of the main points, which you see here, and then we can go through some of the typical questions that you'll get. So these are your the easier questions about equations of a straight line. This is your angle with the axis questions. This is probably the most likely to come up, I would say. To move these over a little bit. This is the most likely one where you get everything put into one question. So it's not just one little equation of a line like up here, up the top here. It would be several equations to get all your skills in, and then a little bit of problem solving as well. Okay. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go through some of our skills. So feel free to leave comments and ask if you have any extra questions, and if you think there's something wrong, put a comment as well. That'd be excellent. And yeah, we'll just keep kind of growing this little series. Okay. So first of all, perpendicular lines. If I've got a perpendicular line, so let's say I've got this line here, a line perpendicular to it makes an angle of 90 degrees to that line. Okay. So in here, I'm going to have 90 degree angle. Just zoom in a little bit. In the first one, there's going to be some fun cheating issues, so enjoy the technical messing around. But yeah, perpendicular line 90 degrees. So if m here is equal to say 3, this gradient would be equal to negative 1/3. Okay, we change the sign and we flip it round, and that's because m1 multiplied by m2 is equal to negative 1. Okay, but all you have to remember is that you change the sign and you flip it over. So trying to keep something like this in your head is quite important. Parallel lines, they never meet. Parallel lines over here, they share the same gradient, so they're never going to meet. So if this is m equals 2, this is going to be m equals 2 as well. Very straightforward. The next point, so we've got a median, an altitude, and I'll nip down here to perpendicular bisector. You know, these three, I'm going to try and do it all in the one big triangle. Let's say I've got a triangle like this. Please no laughing at how awful how awful I am at using this software. Okay, that's not too bad. There we go. So I'm going to call my points that orange. I'm going to call my points A, B, and C. So the median cuts something in half. So if I was looking for the median from C, my line is going to cut AB in half. The median from C might do something like this. Yeah, absolutely. It cuts that in half. Notice it doesn't have to make a 90-degree angle. The altitude from C, still coming from C, this time it's going to make an angle. Let's see, where would that be? Maybe over. I'll just draw it down there. Oops. There we go. You didn't even notice that was done wrongly. Makes an angle of 90 degrees. Just notice the difference between those two things. The median cuts this line in half, and the altitude makes a 90-degree angle with it. The perpendicular bisector would do both. Okay, so the perpendicular bisector, it's going to cut a line. Give it up on the function now on OneNote. It's going to cut a line in half and meet at 90 degrees to it. Okay. Don't get confused when you're doing your equations, okay? And also I would try and draw a sketch if there isn't one. Collinearity. I'll do a little note down here for collinearity. All you're doing for this is you're trying to work out if 3 points are on the same line. So if I've got a line here, I'm trying to say, are these 3 points on the line? What I really should have done is actually just drawn the points after the line. So I've got a nice straight line here, and someone's asking, are A, B, and C on this line? And to find out if they're on the line, you're going to work out what the gradient of AB is, and you're going to work out the gradient of BC. If the gradient of AB is equal to the gradient of AC, That's a strong indicator that they're on the same line, and they also have to have B as a middle point. We're going to call, well, I say a middle point, a common point. It doesn't have to be exactly in the middle. And that would mean they're collinear. Don't forget this statement at the end. The gradients have to be the same, and they have to have this common point. Doesn't have to be bang in the middle, but they both have to have a common point. Okay. And the last two, distance between 2 points is actually a National 5 skill. I'm just going to do this over here. If you've got 2 points, so let's call that point 2, 3, call this point 7, 8. To work out the distance between those 2 points, you have to work out the horizontal and the vertical distance, and then use Pythagoras to work out the actual distance. Okay. So if you've got the x value, I'll just write that in, that's x1 and that's x2, y1 and y2. Difference in your x's is going to be the distance, so that's 7 take away 2 is 5. This difference in the y's is going to be the height of your y, so that's also going to be 5. 8 take away. You would then use Pythagoras. A squared plus b squared to give you, in this case, the d squared. So National 5 skill, but just remember it's there. The last higher skill to talk about is the angle with the axis. So for this, you're going to get something like, and I'll do a proper axis. I will get better at drawing these things. He says, drawing it terribly. There we go. So there's your axis. There's your x-axis, and I'll draw a y-axis in. So if we've got a line, we are trying to find this angle in here, or maybe we're trying to find this angle in here. So all we do is we sketch out our line, and we're going to use m equals tan theta. That's it. Okay. M is simply, don't forget, just your height divided by the width or the length. Height divided by your length. So that's the only little equation that we really need to know for this section. So as you can see, there's actually not an awful lot new. We've got some new parlance, whatever you call it, or median or altitude or perpendicular bisector. But in terms of actually working out equations of lines, it is still just 2 points, gradient, equation, PGE, or 1 point, 1 gradient, and then your equation. So you need 2 points to get your gradient, work out the equation, or you're given a point and you can work out a gradient and then get your equation. But PGE is probably the most important thing, I would say, to remember. That's your headings when you're going to work out the equation of the lines. Okay, hope that was helpful. The next one we're going to work on some of the questions. And I'm going to try and stop the video.